That era was rough. They gave us a tough time. The kids were young African-American boys. They rushed past and suddenly tripped, scraping their knees. If I pass away without telling the truth, Hollywood will always be a sparkling cage. Those are the haunting last lines from a private handwritten note. Uneven, filled with feeling, left behind by Shirley Temple at 85. A screen legend, the bouncy-haired child who was once hailed as a savior of movies in America. Yet she kept a dark secret close for decades. There are five people, five dazzling icons whose faces glowed on film, but whose actions brought pain to her earliest years, taking away her innocence and burying her in silent suffering. At last, she reveals the truth. She lists their names, her words as sharp as knives. I despise them, and you need the story. Are you prepared? Let's dig into the identities of the five stars who turned sweet Shirley's youth into a horror. The third on the list made her consume liquor when she was merely 8, and the last treated her like an object, not a living soul. Born April 23, 1928, in Santa Monica, California, Shirley Temple would become a household name, credited with saving the movie business during the Depression. She made her stage debut at age 3. At 6, she was the country's most beloved film star. By age 10, she was out-earning President Roosevelt. At 12, a movie executive tried to lure her onto his lap and acted inappropriately. 13 saw the start of her decline. Hollywood moving on, directors assigning her grown-up roles, and producers evaluating her body as she grew up, scrutinizing every inch. When her charm fades, she's useless, they declared. One filmmaker once hurled a chair across the room, yelling at her for not weeping convincingly enough on set. Fans believed her life was a fairy tale. The reality was the opposite. Her early years were like a showy zoo, with Shirley as a marketable asset. By the late 1950s, she chose to leave the movie world behind. She turned to diplomacy, serving as an American ambassador in Ghana and Czechoslovakia. She found a new path, but her history haunted her, always lurking in the background. When she was 85, in a rare and intimate conversation, Shirley Temple finally spoke the names of the five people she said she'd never forgive. Five co-workers long thought untouchable, but Temple, whose eyes had seen both glamour and darkness, broke her silence. First, Gable, the gentleman who gave her her first taste of shame. To the world, Gable stood for old Hollywood charm, the heartbreaker from Gone with the Wind. But for Shirley Temple, he was a terror behind a polished facade. She was only 9 when she attended an extravagant MGM gathering with the industry's elite. When she greeted Gable politely, he sized her up coldly and ignored her, saying nothing. Not long after, she heard him mutter to a friend, "Kids like her are called stars now?" Hollywood's doomed. Though only a little girl, the comment cut her deeply. Gable wasn't just snooty. To Temple, he represented an industry that saw child actors as disposable entertainment. They never co-starred in a film, but Gable's name would forever be the first to leave a scar on the Shirley's heart. Second, Judy Garland, child star peer or Hollywood's ultimate betrayer. One was Dorothy in Oz, the other America's golden child. Hollywood hoped for a magical friendship between the two, but reality was different. Garland once described Temple as a spiteful wind-up doll. The two lived parallel but unequal careers. Shirley was the darling at Fox, adored and well compensated, while Garland faced constant pressure to slim down, hide her figure, and take pills to satisfy MGM's image demands. Crew recalled Garland ridiculing Temple off camera, calling her a mophead famous only for her grin. In 1939, at a studio event, someone asked, "Would you like to act with Shirley?" Garland erupted in laughter and retorted before an audience, "No, I don't act with musical wind-ups." Temple faked a smile but recognized Garland's contempt was no joke. Years later, Garland died isolated and addicted at 47. Temple lived to 85, and only late in life did she share the truth that exposed the myth of Hollywood's supportive sisterhood. Garland once claimed, "She didn't despise me, she despised my existence." Often it's those most like us who cause the deepest wounds. Number 3, John Wayne, the Hollywood tough guy who made young Shirley break down. He was the undisputed cowboy king. John Wayne, a living symbol of rugged American heroism. But most don't know that he once yelled in the face of 10-year-old Shirley Temple with uncontrollable anger. The year was 1947. A new war movie was in development, with Temple as the teenage daughter of Wayne's Marine officer. In one dramatic scene, Temple needed to quietly cry as her on-screen father prepared to leave for war. Due to lighting glitches, 4 takes were required. By the 5th attempt, just as Shirley was delivering her lines, John Wayne slammed his fist on the table, leaped up, and roared, "You're wrecking everything! That's not how to cry!" She froze in terror, ears ringing. No adult had ever spoken to her that way in front of the crew, let alone a hero she admired. Filming stopped, the director ended the session. She left the set in silence, saying nothing. That day's shoot was canceled. Weeks later, the project was scrapped. The movie was never released. Reflecting in 2009, Shirley Temple said, "He wasn't a bad guy, just the wrong person to work with kids. He treated me like I was a prop, not a human being." Of all she resented, John Wayne was the only one she didn't loathe for who he was, but for a single moment, when he denied her basic dignity. Fourth, Shirley Mlan, the sharp-tongued actress who made Temple say, "I've never encountered anyone so cruel." Hollywood's women came in types, the gentle, the admired beauties, and those as pointed as knives who kept others on edge. Mlan was the third type, and Temple, once America's darling, became her preferred victim. The two never made a film together, but the press often drew comparisons. One, the sweet icon of the 1930s, the other, a bold, rule-breaking star of the 60s. Mlan detested the association. During a 1982 talk show, when asked about Temple, Mlan said bluntly, "She's more remembered than talented." At an Oscars party in 1989, Temple greeted her with a smile. Mlan replied coldly, "Oh, I thought you had quit." "What was it, age 9? Temple forced a polite smile, then walked away quietly. Men had belittled her, directors had insulted her, but no one had ever made her feel so unworthy as Mlan did. Mlan personified the rebellious Hollywood, mocking the old order both on and off screen. Fifth, Fred Astaire, the dashing gentleman who became Temple's silent tormentor. The world called him the king of dance, the ultimate symbol of style and poise. But to young Shirley, Fred Astaire wasn't a legend. He was an exacting perfectionist with a cold gaze. She was only 11 when she was asked to do a brief dance number with Astaire for a special program. It should have been an honor, but it soon turned into psychological anguish. For less than a minute of footage, Astaire demanded 32 takes, whether it was her posture, breathing, or the rhythm of her tap shoes. Whenever she slipped up, he never raised his voice. He would only pause and stare, and Shirley felt like she was a blemish on his stage. Astaire's silence was its own brand of cruelty. She went home with feet blistered and raw, but the real pain was the sense she'd never measure up. For the first time, Shirley, the child praised as flawless, considered quitting show business, all because a co-star demanded absolute perfection. Some people crush you with harsh words, some with rage. Some simply destroy you with a single look or their stillness. Shirley Temple began performing at age 3, but it would take her more than 80 years to name those who broke her spirit, not with violence, but with words, glances, and the harshness disguised as stardom. Clark Gable, the eyes that shamed. Judy Garland, the poisonous grin. John Wayne, the yell that shattered her trust. Shirley Mlan, a dagger under a ball gown. Fred Astaire, the chilling silence that broke her inside. No one publicly ruined her reputation. No tabloid ever smeared her. But their wounds were subtle, taking a lifetime to heal. Maybe we've misunderstood. Hollywood's darkness doesn't always come with fists or claws. Sometimes it arrives as a dazzling smile. How many more secrets lie behind Tinseltown's glitter? Leave your thoughts below. Which name surprised you most? Whose story stung the most? Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, because next time we're exposing Marilyn Monroe's blacklist, a list that includes a president,